Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News. This is Scott from the Nibiru channel. And this afternoon, we have our physicist with us, and we're going to be discussing some matters of the sun once again. And we're also going to open this discussion with what has happened with the power outages that have occurred on the East Coast in the city of New York, and also out on the West Coast in the cities of San Francisco and Los Angeles. And we're going to be getting into some other information as we progress through our broadcast. Doctor, how are you? How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Scott. And how are you?
I'm not doing too bad. I just, you know, very, very busy the last couple of days. There's just so much going on right here in the United States, but there's also a lot of things going on abroad. I'm not, you know, talking about anything politically, because we know that these politicians are screwing things up around the world every second of the day. But I understand that you took a little trip over the last couple of days.
Yes, I did. I took a little plane trip, and I had a window seat, so I actually watched the sun setting. It was very interesting. I saw how red the sky was at the horizon around where the sun was. But I mean, the red lasted for almost 90 degrees on either side of the sun. So almost half of the whole circle of the Earth. And it was very red. Also, as the sun was still in the sky and it was yellow, and I looked down and I could see there was some lakes. You could see some lakes from the plane, and the sun was shining on these lakes. But the thing is, the lakes didn't look yellow. They were not reflecting yellow light. They were reflecting this dark orange light, almost red. So it's impossible that it was reflecting the yellow sun that I was seeing. It was reflecting another source of light that was behind that light source that I was seeing. And that light source must have been dark orange.
Well, that's interesting.
So, yes, that was very interesting.
Yeah, I haven't been on an airplane in a long, long time. Oh my God, probably 15 years. I used to fly for a living for my job. Yeah, well, at least once a week. I could be in any state, or sometimes, you know, even any country. And, well, you know, to tell you the truth, now I don't miss flying. With everything that you have to do to get on an airplane. And then now on American Airlines, they assault you.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw the video that I did today, but there was another assault on an American Airlines plane, this time by an American Airlines employee who was trying to take a baby stroller off of the mother, and he actually hit the mother with the baby stroller and almost hit the little infant.
Oh my goodness.
So the world is going crazy no matter what you're doing, whether you're driving down the road, walking down the sidewalk, or taking an American Airlines flight. So, and the lady seemed to be not from the United States. She had a little bit of an accent. I felt very bad for her situation. She was crying intensely, and then the airline employee comes on board the plane and starts even more trouble until one of the passengers had to get up, rather big guy. And, he threatened to knock the American Airline the American Airline employee's teeth out.
Oh my.
Yeah. Welcome to America.
Oh my, yes.
Yeah, home of the free, as they say. But yeah, I wanted to get your take on, you know, what was happening here in the United States yesterday with the power outages that were on the East Coast, and also simultaneously on the West Coast in LA and San Francisco. Now, I have seen this before, you know, in a major metropolitan area. we saw it a few years back. I think it was like almost a good portion of the East Coast was blacked out. And I forget what the actual root cause was. But I know that we had some, a very large coronal hole that had opened up last week, and the Earth turned directly into the path of that. We had some earthquakes going off, and they were calling for these geomagnetic storms. And then we had a very, very large coronal mass ejection, I think between the 18th and 19th. I think it's probably, I'd have to say, the largest one that I've ever seen in all of these years of viewing the sun, on the SDO and SETI and so forth. And it was absolutely breathtaking to watch that. And, also thanking God that we were nowhere near that type of CME. But what are the possibilities of the sun having an effect on these power grids?
Well, actually, I would think that it's to be expected right now. As you know, we have this huge coronal hole facing the Earth. And I'm actually looking at it now and writing an article on it, how the coronal hole gets larger as it moves, so that as the sun rotates, so that the coronal hole finally is facing the Earth, and that's at its largest. And then as the sun keeps rotating and the coronal hole then rotates away from facing the Earth, it gets smaller. So that means that, as you know, I've written an article before, I believe that the coronal holes are due to the sun being magnetically connected to a brown dwarf star. So if the sun is magnetically connected to this brown dwarf star, the brown dwarf star would probably be in alignment with the Earth and the sun. So it's either in front of the sun, or, in front of the Earth or behind the Earth. So that means that the Earth is directly in line between this connection, and that's what I call the particle flux connection between the two. So that's why we would get the fast solar wind with lots of ionized particles, and these ionized particles will hit our atmosphere and cause action and in our atmosphere, which would cause induced currents in electrical circuits, and that's basically what power grids are, electrical circuits. So I guess we would expect increased electrical currents in these power grids. So that would put a strain on them, and they could, of course, go down. And that may be what is happening. And of course, if people are using more power as well at the same time, it will even be more likely.
Yeah, it has been warming up. We're moving into the late part of the spring here. We're about 2 months away from full-blown summertime here in the United States. And I just pulled up the SDO footage right now. This is the 48-hour loop, and the computer live feed is lagging a little bit right now. But ladies and gentlemen, it will start to rotate through its 48-hour loop very shortly here. But over the last week, I've been monitoring the SDO and watching that last coronal hole go by, and I saw this. Well, what I thought was, I referred to it as a blowback of the corona, and you went ahead and you did a complete report on that, which we're going to get to. But over the course of the last week, I've just seen all of this intense activity on the sun. Not only with the coronal holes forming once again, but these massive filaments whipping back and striking back, just absolutely amazing. I've never seen filaments that big before, that long. And then now, you know, we have these very, very active sunspots. And we're supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, in this grand solar minimum. But you know, I don't know too much about the grand solar minima. But from what I'm looking at, you know, the sun looks to be very, very active in spots. And you know, I get very worried when I see these large coronal holes, because you know, there are some that will debate me that they do have a lot to do with the increased earthquake activity. You know, we've discussed that many times before. But you know, just on your observations of what you're looking at right now.
Well, first of all, the sun is very weak. What I mean is the light emission is way down. It doesn't mean it's not active. It does have sunspots, especially in that right top corner. But below that, in the southern hemisphere, it's very dark. The coronal holes are huge. And as you know, I believe that these coronal holes means that the sun is connected to a brown dwarf star. So the larger they are, the larger either the brown dwarf stars, or maybe we have more than one in the same, facing the same direction of the sun. I'm also going to write another article. I've collected some data already. I'm going to compare the sun in 2017 and 2011, because the solar maximum was supposed to be in 2014. So if we move 3 years away from that comparable results, but I've already seen that the 2011 sun was not nearly as dark as the 2017 sun. And the corona has shrunk quite a lot. In 2011, the corona was much larger. So what we may be seeing in that top right corner is a bit of the sun that's more like it's supposed to be, like it was in 2011. And everywhere else, it's hardly anything left of the corona. It's like the whole sun is becoming one coronal hole. And that thing that happened with the corona on the left-hand side, what it did was it shrunk rapidly. I mean, to about half its size from one moment to the next, and then it stayed like that. When you look at it in the 48-hour loop, it looks like it's almost a wind blowing at it. But actually, that's not what happened. It just shrunk. And when the corona shrinks like that, it's because the sun is interacting with another object that's causing the corona to shrink. It's the same thing that happens when we get a coronal hole. We get a coronal hole because the sun is magnetically connecting with another object in front of that coronal hole. And when the corona itself shrinks, it's the same effect. It's just not as bad as actually getting a coronal hole.
You know, I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at my computer screen, and this coronal hole, you know, I've seen, oh my God, thousands of them. You know, the more and more now that I look at them, this one just looks so ominous, so deep.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of looks so much darker than the ones that I've seen going through the end of last year and the beginning of this year.
Yes.
And I mean, I've never seen so many openings like this on the sun. You know, and I do understand there has to be a root cause, and there will be, you know, all of the people that will argue with us and debate with us that what we're seeing is actually normal. But we know deep down inside that the activity that we're seeing with the sun, it's not normal. It's not normal in any sense of the word, correct?
Yes, absolutely, Scott. It's not normal. And if you compare the sun in 2011 to the sun in 2017, there were no extremely large coronal holes like we are seeing now. And the reason why you say it's so ominous and so black, it's because there's very little light emission from inside that coronal hole. Usually the coronal holes always have little specks in them, and this one has very few. So that's why it looks darker than most coronal holes we've seen up to now. And that shows you that they are getting worse. Also notice how dark the sun is just outside the coronal hole. You see that it's dark purple. And sometimes if you look at this coronal hole from the time it starts, the areas that are very dark purple sometimes become part of the coronal hole as it grows. So dark purple sun means it's on the way to forming a coronal hole there. And that shows you how much weaker the sun is, how much smaller the corona is getting.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity here. I blew the screen up for everyone so they can get a better look at what we're seeing, a more detailed view. Just absolutely amazing. You know, in some sense of the words, you know, it's kind of beautiful to look at, but when you realize that, you know, what you're looking at damage. You know, you're looking at damage to our light source and our heat source on this planet. And there has to be something, there has to be something there that is causing and creating this damage. And we know full well, you know, what this root cause is. And, you know, on a day-to-day basis, I try my best to inform people and to let people know that what we are seeing, you know, you're never going to see this again in a lifetime. Everybody will be dead and gone for probably maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of years. Who knows? But, you know, in the course of these months coming up, or whatever the timeline is, humanity is going to see something that hasn't been seen for a very, very, very long time. And, you know, like I said, in some aspects of the word, it's kind of an amazing thing, but it's also, you know, it's also a very deadly thing and very, very damaging. But I'm going to go ahead and I wanted to get into that report that you wrote. I didn't have a chance to actually read it, but I'm going to just go ahead and pull it up here, and we can go directly right into it. Now, you titled this report. Let me just scroll down here. And once again, as you're going through your report, just, you know, give me the cue when you want me to scroll down if I happen to mess up a little bit here. But you titled this this report, "The SDO Images from April 18th and 19th, 2017, and it shows the sun's corona shrink and the sun going partially dark." Now, when I saw the well, what is now referred to as this shrinking of the corona, when I originally saw this in the 48-hour loop, it threw me through a loop, because instantaneously I forgot that I was looking at, you know, a 48-hour loop of this video. And I lost my breath looking at it, because I said, oh my God, what just happened? You know, and that was at the time, I think you were just about to leave on your trip. And I was talking to Chris Potter about this, and we were both amazed. We were actually watching it together on a video call. And, you know, we both had that WTF moment, you know, like, what the hell was that? You know, because I've never seen anything like that before. And, you know, I may go the rest of my lifetime and never see anything like that. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you so you can go ahead over your report, because I think all of this is very, very important.
Yes. So what you see here is the three images of the sun where you see the corona shrink back. And so the first one is from April 18th from 1941. Okay. So, and you see the corona is quite large, and then in the next one, it's shrunk. And then in the next one, it shrunk some more. And then 4 hours after that, into the 19th, it never quite recovers. It just does a little bit, but never quite recovers to the same size that it had before.
Yeah,
so,
I can see that. It was kind of a subtle. It was kind of a subtle change when you're looking at it in the still images.
That's right. It is. So that's what I first noticed. And then, because you see, the way I see it is, if the corona shrinks, it means there's an object there somewhere that's causing that. In other words, it's these stars going around the sun. They are in orbits. They in the solar system. They in close orbits around the sun. They are interacting with the sun. They're connecting magnetically to the sun, and they have an effect on the sun's corona. If the sun's corona shrinks like that from one moment to the next, it's because there's an object there somewhere that's perhaps getting close to the sun and interacting with it. So that's what I always think when I see things like that. And then there was evidence to the fact that that indeed was happening, because the powers that be started using cutoff lines in the images. And if we scroll down a little bit more, we will see there I still show the corona, and see, as you can see, as the hours go by, it never quite recovers.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is
okay. And then if we go down,
this is the reference to the cutoff lines.
These are the cutoff lines they use. They always use these because they don't want us to see certain parts of the sun. In other words, they are artificially added, so we do not see what is there. And why would they use them? Because there are objects there they don't want us to see. Now, so what we see here is three cutoff lines being used. There's the horizontal line on the top, the vertical line on the right. There's a small diagonal line. So all the blue arrows point to these cutoff lines. The red arrow points to a line. You can see a line there, but it's not a straight, smooth line. It's jagged. That's why I use the red arrow. So it's not a cutoff line. It's actually a natural line that occurs there, where there is an interface between light and darkness. So the sun is emitting ultraviolet light, this in the 21.1 nanometer, below that line, and it's not emitting any light, any of this wavelength of ultraviolet light above that line. So the jagged line is a natural line where the sun has gone dark above it. Okay, so that's how I know the sun is going dark. And we will see as we go further on that it actually goes dark in every single wavelength that SDO detects. So when the sun goes dark like this, it's not a coronal hole type of darkness. It's different. A coronal hole, there is still light being emitted from a coronal hole, but not the particular ultraviolet light in which we see this part of the corona. So this coronal hole we see there, there's no 21.1 nanometer wavelength light, but there are other wavelengths of light. And usually visible light is emitted from the coronal hole. So it's not visible in invisible light. But when the sun stops emitting light, then it goes black in every wavelength. And as you see, this is exactly what happens here. The sun actually goes, and I say partially dark, because it only goes dark up to that edge that we see there. Below that, it's still emitting light. So as we proceed, we see how many cutoff lines they use. And the fact that they're using so many cutoff lines means to me that there are at least 2 objects there inside the sun's corona, and very close to the sun.
So whenever you were
Okay,
whenever you were doing your report, you weren't taking screenshots of the sun from the 48-hour loop. You were actually using the still frame photographs.
That's right. I use the helio viewer images.
That's how you're able to catch these people.
Yes, that's right.
I see.
I just go in. Okay, so you'll see some more of the cutoff lines that they use there. Okay, so again, I show the red arrows and how it doesn't change for a while. Okay, and then so they use it on, so the sun goes dark on the top right-hand corner at first. And then, yeah, in the first 3 images, that's what you see. And you see that the vertical line on the right-hand side moves in, and then the top line moves up as the object probably moves away from the sun. And then in the 4th image, you see there's no horizontal cutoff line anymore. So there's no object there. That's why it's not there. But the corona is flat against the sun. And
wow.
Okay, it was like, yeah.
Look.
Yeah, so yeah.
That's amazing. You could, you know, you can really see some suspicious detail when you look at these still photographs.
Yes, definitely. And then you see that the sun, and then they have cutoff lines on the right-hand side and below the sun. So obviously whatever object was there moved around, or one of them moved around to being below the sun. It's like they closely orbiting the sun, so close that they're actually in the sun's corona. And obviously I don't think there's just one, because they use more than one cutoff line at the time. It could be one of them is a planet, but at least one of them has to be a brown dwarf star in order to cause the sun to go dark. So you see there's some more cutoff lines. The green arrows point to where the cutoff lines just cut off the corona, not the actual body of the sun. So I just tried to use different colors. The red arrow always points to a jagged edge, which means that the sun is dark above that edge. It's visible, I use a red arrow. So as you see, over many hours, they use many cutoff lines. So these objects were around the sun for many hours. I mean, we don't see the objects themselves, but the fact that they use cutoff lines means there's something there they don't want us to see. And it's obvious that the sun is going dark.
Boy, they're terrible. They are terrible at editing these photographs. They are absolutely terrible.
Yes. But you see what they then do, because most people look at the 48-hour loop like you do. And what they do is they put those edges where the cutoff lines are. Say that one in the second last image, it's got a cutoff line at the bottom. So what they would do there is take that line and put it at the bottom of the image. So it looks like the sun has moved downwards. So that's why in the 48-hour loop, it looks like the sun is jumping around because they're moving the edges. And yeah, so that's the 5th one, I think. No, that's the 6th one. Sorry, no, it's the 7th image where you see the cutoff line on the bottom. So they would move the sun down so that cutoff line is right at the bottom of the image. So it looks like the sun has moved downwards. So that's how they hide the fact that they're using cutoff lines. Because it looks like the sun is moving wildly from side to side. But all they're doing is moving the sun down so that the cutoff line is at the edge of the image.
So they are actually manipulating the imagery because I had a lot of people asking, there were a few people in the chat asking about, hey, did you ever find out what was causing the sun to move around so violently? You know, and I have seen before, I don't know, they say that they're adjusting the camera. I've never seen that before until I think this year, 2017. I've seen it about a half a dozen times already. So the sun is actually not jolting back and forth. The spacecraft,
No, not this time.
yeah, the SDO, the spacecraft is not moving back and forth. Are you saying that they're moving the camera up and down?
No, they're not moving the camera. They cutting off parts of the sun, and then they resetting the image when they do the footage for the 48-hour loop.
Oh,
so that the edges of, you see, they right at the edge of the image, so it looks like the sun's moving, but that's not what's happening. They're just moving the edges to the edge of the image.
So they're actually manipulating the video footage that they post on the SDO website for the 48-hour loop. Yes. Before they post that, they're actually manipulating the video footage. And when they put these cutout lines in there, and then they play the 48-hour loop, that's what makes the sun look like it's zipping all over the place, up and down, side to side, because they manipulated the video footage on the ground.
Yes, exactly. The sun does move sometimes. I have caught it moving a couple of times. It does move, but not as violently as this current 48-hour loop shows, because they were drastically cutting off large sections of the sun. So obviously these objects were right in front of those sections, and they didn't want anybody to see them. You can see that wherever there are red lines, there's a jagged edge. So the third last image there shows the red arrow, and you can see now the sun is going dark on the top left corner.
Wow. So just getting right out there and saying it, they are deceiving us. They're lying about what they've posted with these 48-hour loops, specifically with this footage that we looked at, which, you know, that pertained to the sun jumping around back and forth in the video footage. They purposely are deceiving us on what we were viewing. They did this on purpose. Yes,
they are. You see that the deception is at two levels. First of all, they're using cutoff lines, so we do not see the objects that are really there. And we do not see the fact that the sun is going partially dark. And then they are hiding the fact that they're using these cutoff lines to hide part of the sun and hide the fact that it's going partially dark in the 48-hour loop by making it look like the sun is moving from side to side and up and down.
And then they could just simply say, oh, we were adjusting the camera.
Yes,
but in fact, they weren't adjusting anything. What they were adjusting was our point of view.
Exactly.
Ooh.
And the images themselves, they covered up large portions of the images that SDO was detecting and sending back to Earth. They edited the images with cutoff lines.
Boy, oh boy, you know see, these are things like this that really get me upset, because once again, you know, no matter how hard we make attempts at informing people on what is happening, there's always going to be that faction of people that say, oh, you're crazy, you're a liar, this is not happening, you don't have any evidence, you're full of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But in actuality, we are the ones that are uncovering this, and the powers that be, they are the ones that are lying and deceiving the entire world population. Well, look, I mean, let's just face it, ladies and gentlemen, why would they have to go to these extents? I mean, if you look at these photographs, I mean, they basically look very amateurish. I mean, if you were going to have a professional photographer, you know, edit some pictures, I doubt very highly if you would be seeing all of these idiotic cutoff lines, only as, like the doctor is saying, if they're using these cutoff lines, they must be trying to hide something in the footage, because each and every one of these photographs should be centered in the middle of the black square. You should see the sun perfectly in the center, but you're not seeing that because, as she has said, they are purposely cutting off the image, and now you cannot see it. It's covered by,
that's right,
blackness, darkness. This is just, you know, doctor, I'm actually going to start looking at the still photographs, because, you know, in the course of my dates, you know, sometimes I don't have a lot of time to look at the still images frame after frame after frame. But I think I think from this day forth, I'm going to be looking at these still images every single day.
Good.
Yes, every single day. Would you like me to move down in this report?
Yes, please do.
Just tell me when you
down
want to
some more. Okay, there's something interesting there. What I noticed there, the image on the left is from April 19th at 14:15. On the right is same day, but from 15:19. And in that time, just over an hour between the two, you see that the coronal hole changed its size? You see the coronal hole on the left is much larger than what we see on the right. Did you know that these coronal holes could change size so quickly?
Yeah, what's up with that? I've never seen them.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah,
you can also see the jagged line there when where the sun goes dark. But this is what I think is happening, because the coronal hole is an area where the sun is connected magnetically to another object. And so large amounts of particles leave the sun's surface, and the density goes down, and it gets darker and cooler. So if you scroll down some more, I explain what I think is actually happening in that diagram. What we had in the left image was a brown dwarf star. BD means brown dwarf. Brown dwarf star 1 connected magnetically with the sun, which causes the coronal hole. So now we have so that brown dwarf star was not close to the sun. It's further out, okay? But it causes that coronal hole. Now we have another brown dwarf star coming very close to the sun, to the point that it's in the sun's corona. That's why they are using the cutoff lines, because they don't want us to see this object. Wow. And it has to be a brown dwarf star because the sun goes dark. Only a brown dwarf star can do this, can drain the sun to the point that it stops emitting light completely. So what we have then is another brown dwarf star coming close to the sun, but it connects with the first brown dwarf star. You see that magnetically.
Yes.
And so at the same time, it shields the sun. It shields the sun so that the sun is not as magnetically connected to the red brown dwarf star, the brown dwarf star 1. There's only one magnetic line there, as you can see, connecting the two. So the coronal hole shrinks. At the same time, that brown dwarf star is very close to the sun, so part of the sun goes dark. So this is what I think is happening.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So that brown dwarf star coming very close to the sun is actually shielding the sun from the other one, because it connects to that other brown dwarf star. So I think that it's quite exciting that I noticed that.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's the explanation I could come up with. All right, so we can scroll down some more. Look at some more images. And yes, then I look at this one. This is in the 19.3 nanometer wavelength. You can see that jagged line so clearly. Do you see how jagged that is?
Yes.
That's definitely not a cut line. That's a natural line, an interface between light and darkness. And the sun goes dark in that wavelength below that jagged edge line. And it's still emitting light above that. That's why I say it's going partially dark. And then if you scroll down some more, you can see that it happens in every single wavelength. So the first one there is X-rays. And then we see all the different ultraviolet wavelengths. So that's the 13.1. So the first one is 9.4. It's an X-ray wavelength. And then 13.1, 17.1, 30.4. 30.4, 33, 160, and 170. All of them show that the sun is not emitting light in the bottom left corner. Okay, not all. We don't actually see that how jagged the edge is in all of them. The 13.1, we see there's a jagged edge clearly. That's the light blue one, the second one. The dark blue one, we also see the jagged edge. The yellow one, what we see is a dark band around, just above that edge. So the sun is emitting a lesser intensity of light just along the edge. That's another sign that it's actually dark below that line. We can see the same thing with the pink and the yellow, the last two. These are the 160 and the 170 nanometer. Again, it's darker along that edge, showing that the intensity of the light emitted from that region is less than it is above that. And below that, it's totally black. So the sun is very likely not to be emitting any light from there. So that's what I noticed. Basically, this means that it goes dark in every single wavelength. The only one that's missing so far is the visible light one. And then I show that it also stops emitting light in visible light, or partially. In the same area, we see that it's not. So if we scroll down some more, this is not a very long report. So there's the visible light. As you can see, it's not circular. That's the first thing you should notice. So, and I actually point out some spots with the blue arrows where they looks like they are cut off lines, but the sun is definitely not circular like it's supposed to be. And the worst one is the last one. It's very elliptical, let's say. Okay, yeah. So if we scroll down some more, yeah, you see definitely the visible light looks like it's being affected. Look at this. Now I got two images. One is the one on the left is the 21.1 nanometer, and there's the jagged edge there. The red arrow points to it, and we see the visible light one also has light emission missing in that corner. Okay, the top right corner. So that's evidence that the sun is losing visible light emission in that corner. Because the jagged edge means there's no light emission in the 21.1 nanometer. That's where the red arrow is pointing to. So definitely it goes dark in the 21.1 nanometer. So the fact that it's dark in visible light, exactly the same area, means it's also losing light emission in exactly the same spot. So that means the sun goes dark in every single wavelength that SDO detects, which means it is actually going dark. It's not a coronal hole. It's losing complete light emission for a while in different areas of the sun. And this is amazing that this is happening. This is, of course, what happens during the SDO eclipse season, which they came up with to hide the fact that an object comes close to the sun and it actually loses light emission progressively until it goes completely dark. And this is exactly what happened. This light emission is lost in all wavelengths at different times, and often in the visible light wavelength before it loses it in the ultraviolet wavelengths. So here we see the same thing happening, except we don't have the whole sun going dark, only parts of it go dark. Obviously, wherever these objects, the brown dwarf star that's causing this, gets close to that area, and it causes it to go dark there.
So all of this was occurring. This was all occurring in the time period between the 18th of April and the 19th.
That's right. And I believe there was a huge coronal mass ejection at that time as well, which is to be expected because from what I've observed from 2007, when I first saw that first brown dwarf star in the core 2 images, the sun reacts like this. Sometimes the brown dwarf star comes by, and sometimes the darkness actually happens on the opposite side of the sun. So we see the darkness, and then after a while, the sun reacts with a huge, violent coronal mass ejection, a type of explosion. It's massive explosions. So I'm not surprised we saw a huge coronal mass ejection. And that coronal mass ejection is usually in the direction of the brown dwarf star. Whilst the darkness sometimes can happen on the opposite side of the sun. So there, I'm not sure, but because they had cutoff lines there close to that area, I would think that there are objects there. Of course, some of them could be planets. I'm not sure that all of them are brown dwarf stars, but I would say that at least one of the objects that approached the sun on the 18th and 19th of April, or at least one, is a brown dwarf star. Otherwise, the sun would not be going dark.
Just absolutely amazing that, you know, with all of this evidence, there are still people out there that say, you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking about, you know. But I don't see anybody else coming up with viable, clinical, scientific evidence of what we're looking at.
Of course.
Because, you know, I mean, the coronal mass ejection that occurred last week was the largest one that I have ever seen. I mean, I studied the video footage on Soho for a couple of hours. I just kept replaying the CME over and over and over again because I wanted to see if there was something that I would notice or that I missed. But I was so in tuned on just watching that massive explosion. I mean, that was absolutely huge. That's probably one of the biggest ones that we've seen in a very, very, very long time. It was massive.
Yes, this is what happens when these objects approach the sun. It reacts violently to their presence. It goes dark as well. So and then there's also a sort of a backlash from the sun. It's almost like it's trying to push them away. And we've seen the sun do that with comets as well. Sometimes it looks like it has a huge coronal mass ejection of comets, as if it's trying to push them away. It's fascinating that it does that. And of course, it could be that it's just trying to equalize the potential. And so it sends out some particles in the direction of the objects.
Yeah, I showed last week. I showed a comet that was heading towards the sun, and in one set of the footage, it actually looked like the tail of the comet was bending into an arch. It was like you just said, it was like the sun was pushing the comet away, and it was trying to angle itself back towards the sun, and it looked like the sun disintegrated the comet before any type of an impact. But that's really what I was really not looking so intensely at an impact. I was looking at the way the sun was repelling this comet as it headed towards the sun, and then it just basically dissipated, and there was nothing there. But
yeah, I remember that, Scott. And I think what actually was happening there, because comets don't naturally move the way you saw that comet move. I mean, we didn't actually see a coronal mass ejection from the sun. But what we did see was the comet, instead of turning right towards the sun like we would expect it if it was attracted to the sun, it sort of got pushed away. And that suggests to me there was another object there on the opposite side to where the comet was, and that object was attracting the comet away from the sun.
So it was almost like a little tug of war to see who was going to capture this comet as it was making its way in.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing footage, and you were only able to see that on the, I think you were only able to actually see that on the Secchi footage.
The Core 2. I think it was the Core 2.
The Core 2, yeah. You were only able to see it on the Core 2, but when you looked at it on SOHO and LASCO 2 and 3, you didn't see it that way. You only saw it that way on that Core 2 footage, the tail bending like that. And it was very odd. The minute I looked at that footage, I knew something was very odd about that, because, as you said, the comet wasn't moving in its normal fashion. It looked like it was going to just turn away and just, head out into space. And it just had that large arc forming in its tail, and then bingo, it was gone. So I mean, we're seeing some amazing things that are happening, and but none of them are any good. None of them are good. I mean, not even the science. I know for you, it's amazing to see these things for the first time, but every single one of these instances, these are very critical, aren't they? These are very critical occurrences that are happening.
Indeed, Scott. This is actually not good for the sun or the earth, what is happening. Because first of all, we are getting hit by intense radiation due to the fact that the sun is interacting with these other stars in the inner solar system. So there is the radiation. There's the fact that the sun could go wild in the direction of Earth, and our power grids are in danger. I mean, I don't think we are in danger of being impacted directly by one of these stars, because they seem to be attracted to the sun, so they want to orbit the sun and drain it of energy, it seems. But the only thing that could impact us, I suppose, would be an asteroid, which could have its orbit perturbed by these objects. And the sun is getting darker and weaker, so we could lose it could lose its ability to produce photosynthesis on Earth. So there are certain dangers. And of course, if we are in these particle flux connections between the sun and these particles, then our mantle, the Earth's mantle, will warm up. We will get more and more earthquakes. And of course, earthquakes are dangerous. Our weather patterns are changing because the Earth's magnetic field is being perturbed, and where the North Pole is changed, so our weather patterns are different. All kinds of things are happening to our planet that seem to be getting worse.
So what would you say when you just spoke of all of this, your complete report?
Yes.
And I know you're a very nice and humble person, but what would you say if someone stood in front of you and said, "Listen, doctor, you're crazy. You're crazy. None of this is happening." What would your response be?
I would say, well, I wish it wasn't. But you don't have to believe me. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. This is what I see is happening. I have been looking at this for many months now. I didn't want to believe it in the beginning either, but I saw evidence. I've been studying this evidence, and this is what it comes down to. There are stars in the inner solar system. They are affecting our sun and all the planets in the solar system, including our planet. Things are not right with our planet, and what's happening is not good for human life. This is the conclusion I've come to. I want to tell people the truth because I think people have the right to know the truth. And the powers that be are hiding this. They are lying to the whole planet and telling them that instead of looking to the sun, we must look outside to 90 AU and look for objects that are about the same size as Pluto. Now, these little objects are not affecting our life on Earth at all. Why are they important? They're not important. They are a distraction. So we don't look at what's actually important, which is happening around the sun. There are stars there, and they want to hide that truth from everybody on this planet.
Exactly. Yeah, I did the story today on the little exoplanet Didi that that they found, this this small little icy partially non-light emitting little rock of a planet. They don't even know if it's completely spherical, but yet this is top news in astronomy. And I mean, and we know damn well that there is so much more out there right now, but they're not going to tell anyone. They're not going to say anything to anyone. They're going to continue to keep everyone dumbed down all the way to the ground.
Yes.
And then people keep asking, "Oh, they're chemtrailing. They're chemtrailing. That's all I see. That's all I see." Well, yes, that's all you're going to see. I think that there's a 50-50 chance that they think that this chemtrailing is going to help block some of the radiation, maybe deflect it back into space. I don't think that that's even possible. I think the majority of the chemtrailing is 100% deception. They are deceiving people. They don't want you to see clearly blue skies. And
that's true.
I
believe that as well.
Yeah, and it's awful funny that the chemtrailing is on a specific schedule. Now, I know I can go outside and I can wake up to the mornings and see a crystal clear, well, I don't know about crystal clear, but I can see a blue sky with no clouds in it and the sun coming up. And then by 9 a.m., the planes are everywhere, and they're crisscrossing back and forth in front of the sun.
That's right.
But if you look the opposite way, if you're facing the sun and you look the opposite way behind you, there's no chemtrailing.
That's right. Why are they always chemtrailing around the sun? Because of the stars in the inner solar system that have close orbits around the sun, and so they're always very close to the sun if we were to look there. Why else would they only chemtrail around the sun? If they wanted to block radiation, they would chemtrail everywhere and every day. And haven't you noticed days when they do not chemtrail, we actually see the sun, which nowadays is not actually I don't think we've actually seen the real sun for I don't know how long. These are these devices that they use. The sun probably doesn't even look like a white sun anymore because it's been so changed by these stars. It probably looks different, and they don't want us to see it. So so they don't, if they don't chemtrail, it's because there's nothing to see. It's because these stars are actually behind the sun from our point of view, so we wouldn't be able to see them. So then they don't chemtrail. But the moment they come out to the sides of the sun or above or below, then they chemtrail because they don't want us to see these stars. It's obvious. I mean, they're such good liars that it's obvious.
Well, I know there's never a day that they're not chemtrailing where I live. I know a lot of people on the East Coast of the United States. Well, let's just say the whole entire United States. You know, we're constantly seeing the chemtrailing. I know there were some people in other countries that had emailed me, and you know, they stated that they don't see chemtrailing every now and then. And I said, well, if you want to see chemtrailing, come to the United States. I would have to say that the United States of America is the chemtrail capital of the globe.
Yeah, that's probably
because they seem to do it every single day. And whatever they're spraying, I don't know, you know, it affects me. I mean, I have trouble breathing. Like if it's a very heavy chemtrail day and I happen to be outside for some length of time, I notice that, you know, hours later I'm wheezing. You know, my lungs feel I don't even use the word, maybe congested.
Yes.
It's almost like a hay fever, like an allergy. And
Yes.
you know, I get the same comments from people emailing me about, you know, the chemtrails, because I have a lot of people that are, you know, very interested, a lot of them mad about the chemtrailing. Yes. Because they feel that it is damaging their health, damaging the environment. And for many, many years, people have been investigating, you know, these chemtrails. And, you know, once again, you know, we can never come up with a solid answer. Yes. No one will step up to the plate and say, hey, okay, you know, this is the reason why we're doing this. Yes, we are trying to hide something from you. You know, we're trying to protect the environment.
They will never admit it.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you, the day that they do admit something like this, oh boy, I could see that'd make the entire world population very, very mad.
Yes. Well, one thing I could suggest is if the chemtrailing is really heavy, that you stay indoors as much as possible and you get an air filter. So you filter your inside air as much as possible. That's the only thing I can suggest.
Well, I was just actually taking a look right now as you were talking. So let me go ahead. I'm going to bring this up here. I was just taking a look at what is currently happening earthquake-wise, and I had a feeling that you know, that we were going to start to experience you know, some pretty good earthquakes popping off, and it seems like, wow, the entire United States there. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to kind of zoom in here a little bit and see what's going on here in the central part of the United States. Oklahoma, you know, they constantly talk about the fracking wells here in Oklahoma causing these earthquakes. But listen, I was in the fracking industry for 5 years. I mean, I studied geology courses. I held 13 licenses and permits to work for one of the largest gas and oil well companies on the face of this earth. And a magnitude 3.4 earthquake is not going to be caused by a fracking well. We're talking about 18,000 feet drilled straight down, And then, you know, I don't know what they're doing there in Oklahoma, but when I was working on fracking operations in Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania, once we got down to the 18,000 foot marker, we would start to go and drill horizontally. And usually that would be 5 additional boreholes horizontally. And then, you know, you would go ahead and fracture the shell by using small explosive devices that were sent down the borehole. But I don't see a magnitude 3.4 earthquake being caused by fracking operations in Oklahoma. Now, if they were small, you know, under a magnitude 1 or 1.5, possibly.
Of course.
But I don't see a magnitude 3.4 being caused by fracking wells. Over here in, what is this, Tennessee, we're looking at 12 hours ago, a magnitude 2.43. You know, everybody knows that the Tennessee is not an earthquake zone. I mean, if you have an earthquake there in Tennessee, it's what, once in a blue moon? You know, what do we have here in Colorado? A magnitude 3.7. Oh, we have an update. That's why the screen went blank here. Yep.
Okay.
Let's see what, let's see what we got here. Yeah, anything in red would signify earthquakes that just occurred within the hour.
Okay.
And what, you know, what we're looking at here too. Yeah, they do have these little tiny microquakes. Yeah, this was the Colorado quake of 3.7.
Okay.
And what do we got here in Utah? Magnitude 2.98. You know, and I could guarantee you that all of these earthquakes that we're looking at right here, if they have anything to do with the United States, you can guarantee they were downgraded by the USGS. It's something that they've been doing constantly. Let's just take a little. Not all of the earthquakes are going to show up on this map. They're making this region of California look like nothing's happening. But whenever you pull up the when you pull up the USGS map, it is just littered across the entire border. Oh, what do we have up here? That looks like close to Yellowstone. Well, it's pretty far away.
Okay.
The small quakes, very, very small. This is very strange, a magnitude 3.7 in Colorado.
In Colorado. Yeah,
that's very, very strange.
Well, they are definitely happening where we've never had earthquakes before. That's Indonesia. There. So, yeah, that's an earthquake-prone zone. But we're getting more and more of them all the time.
Yeah, I noticed that
I
noticed the magnitude. You know, and I've been gauging this, over the course of the last year, and you know, I've noticed that the earthquakes have steadily increased from, you know, small magnitudes of 3, then they went up to magnitudes of 4. You know, throughout the end of last year and the beginning of this year, 2017, and now they're you know, elevated as moving into the high 5s, and I know that they're going to continue to downgrade these earthquakes. Now, what I've just pulled up here is the actual USGS map. And these are the last. These are the last set of earthquakes over the past 24 hours. So you can see what I was talking about, you know, California. You know, if I add 7 days to this this website for the USGS, it really starts to slow the website down. It's almost impossible to use. They're actually putting a warning banner up that if you load 7 days of earthquakes, well, it basically tells you the website might not work correctly.
Okay. Well, that just goes to show how many earthquakes there are in 7 days.
Yeah, we're going to try this and see. We're actually going to see what happens. 7 days, all magnitudes. See if that warning comes up.
Okay. You can
So
even
far.
go up to 30 days, I see.
If we go up to 30 days, it might crash.
Yeah, because there are more and more earthquakes. Look at that.
Yeah, see,
My goodness.
it's starting not to work right now. It won't even let me collapse the banner here on the side.
Yes. Look at how many there are in California. It's wow.
I know, I mean, I do the earthquake reports, as often as possible, but as of lately, when you're dealing with YouTube now, yeah, see, it completely froze.
Yes. Oh,
Yep,
well.
there it is. Page unresponsive.
Well, that's just proof we have more earthquakes happening. We don't even have to count them.
Oh God, that would be impossible. Look, I mean, they had a small earthquake in Toronto, one right outside of the state of Maine over in Canada. I mean, let me see if I can get this to.
And there are lots in Alaska too.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, we got it. It finally started to work.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah. That warning, when that warning symbol comes up, I guess, it's so much data that is on here.
Yeah.
Oh, 1 second here. Let me fix something real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, it's starting to go haywire. Yeah, whenever you pull that up, it did that to me the other day, and it would not stop. It would completely freeze up, and it's playing around with the screen back and forth, and it was just a real pain. I couldn't. My computer kept freezing, and I just wanted to see, these last 7 days, and it just would not allow me to see them. So we're gonna take one more crack at it to see what we can find.
Okay.
Will it work?
Yeah, it's just so many earthquakes. It's just unbelievable. I mean, in the last 10 years, the number of earthquakes has just exploded. Exponential growth. Maybe, I think I looked at it once and I saw that the growth is larger than exponential. The trend is greater than exponential growth.
Yeah, it's not letting me move. It's not letting me move around here. Just entirely too many earthquakes for the USGS website to actually put out.
Yeah.
Well, if we start getting any more,
but that's,
it might just crash the whole website.
Maybe. But that just goes to show how the number of earthquakes has increased, Scott. And remember, we did get some earthquakes in Africa. And Africa, especially the southern part, is very stable. We never see earthquakes there, basically. So when I started seeing earthquakes in Africa, and I've known for years that when that did happen, it meant the earth is in for big shaking. Because when Africa starts being affected, then the rest of the planet will be affected much more.
Yeah, that was pretty. I was pretty amazed by those earthquakes that occurred a couple weeks ago, in the South Africa area, and then they had another earthquake that was in the northern quadrant of the continent, and again, very, very rare to see these earthquakes there, but now, I guess moving deeper and deeper into this event. I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I guess you're never going to know really what you're going to see.
Yes.
There was one question that I wanted to ask you real quick while I still have it on my mind, and it's going back to the cutoff lines and what they're doing to manipulate this data. If we didn't have the chemtrailing, and the possibilities of not having a sun simulator.
Yes.
No deception.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody trying to lie to us.
Yes.
What do you think that we would actually be seeing from Earth in the sky?
Well, we'd be seeing the sun go partially dark, for instance. So we would look at the sun and say, oh, a portion of the sun is just not there. The sun is not round anymore. So we would see that. We would see these other stars, the pink stars that we know is there because it illuminates our atmosphere with pink light so that we get pink clouds. And then there's the red ones, and maybe there's even a blue one because sometimes I see blue clouds. It's amazing. So there are these different colored stars there that are not nearly as bright as the sun, not nearly as bright. So they emit a little bit of light, and sometimes you get this burnt yellow, and it's at night, so it's probably on the far side of the Earth, on the outside of Earth's orbit, because we see it at night. But these stars are moving. I have orbits around the sun, and we would see them moving around. We would see these different colored stars around. We'd probably see some of their planets move around as well. Yeah, but I think the scariest part would be that the changes in our sun. It's probably not nearly as bright as it used to be. It may not even be a white star anymore. It may be emitting a darker color. I'm not sure, because I don't think we're seeing the sun anymore because they're using these devices to cover up what's happening with it. And it's scary to see all these stars around, but I think the scariest part is the changes in our sun.
Yeah, I would.
Because we're so dependent on it.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I mean, I think about it every day, whenever I step outside and I go and I take my photographs of the sun, and the only time I could really get the photographs are, in the very early morning before 9 a.m. Because like I said, they come out with the chemtrailing and they do a good job. That's all I got to say. They do a great job at blocking that sun out. They put that hazy mist in the sky, and then from there, it's over. You're not going to photograph anything. And, even at nighttime, the stars seem to be kind of dim. We don't have that crisp sky, every once in a while, but, not that often. But I would probably be taken back pretty far if, in broad daylight, all of a sudden, it partially, went, I don't want to say completely dark, but you would probably see like a very large shadow cast across the Earth.
Yes.
If something that large passed by the sun.
Yeah, I think we are seeing these shadows, but it's being hidden from us with the simulators because they close to the Earth's atmosphere. I mean, closer to the Earth than these objects that cast shadows are. So that's how they hide them. But then we see the halos, and the halos could be these planets, or it could be their shield mechanisms to hide planets and stars behind those shields. It's, that they're using everything they can to hide the truth from us. They don't want people to know.
Do you think ever in our lifetime that we're actually going to know 100% the complete truth?
You know what? I think this system will fail eventually. But it will probably be too late for a lot of people. Because by then, the cataclysms on Earth will probably be to such an extent that most of our civilization might be destroyed. And then people who are on Earth, and I don't think that everyone is going to die, There may still be large amounts of people on Earth will look up and see these stars. I don't think these stars are going anywhere. I don't think they're just passing through either. I think that we pass through an area in the solar system where these brown dwarfs, in our galaxy where these brown dwarfs were, and this could have happened 100 years ago, and they felt this attraction to our sun as it came close to them, and they started moving in. And they've been here maybe for 20, 30 years, and in the beginning they're dark, we don't see them. Then as they absorb energy from the sun, they start to become more and more visible. And I think the powers that be knew these objects were moving in many, many years ago. Maybe from the 1950s they knew already. And they started planning for this.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
So, yeah. So I don't think they're going anywhere. They've moved in, they're attracted to the sun, they're orbiting the sun. And once they are orbiting our star, the only thing that would move them away is if we pass by another star that is brighter than our sun and are then attracted to that other star. But as you know, there are large distances between stars, actual stars that are bright and emitting a lot of light. I mean, main sequence stars. So I think it's unlikely that these stars are going anywhere. They are probably going to stick around our sun for a long time. So I don't see how we can escape this. What's happening to our sun?
Yeah, I've thought very, very deeply about the same thing. You know, as we spoke earlier, going all the way back to the whole the theory from Zecharia Sitchin of the planet Nibiru, because I myself, whenever I first started researching all of this and heard all about it many, many years ago, you know, I read the information from Zecharia Sitchin and Dr. Robert Harrington, and you know what I read from Zecharia Sitchin was, well, I mean, I don't even know how to put it, but you know, just thinking about this one planet. Okay, well, you know, maybe one planet's really not going to do that much damage coming into our solar system, and then, you know, reading your reports, coming across your information, and then learning more and more and more about these brown dwarf stars. And as I'm learning, the rest of the scientific community is learning still. And there's still a lot of information out there that we just don't have. Now, I'm sure, you know, I'm sure the powers that be, the international space agencies, I'm sure they know a lot, because if they didn't know a lot, then they wouldn't try to be covering this up, and they wouldn't try to be burying themselves underground. That much is for sure. So what do you think about all of these countries moving into the Antarctic? I was talking to you earlier about the big Russian Antarctica base that they just unveiled. I wasn't able to get you any information on it, but I'm going to dig it up and I'll get you a link. But they're actually the Russian government's actually very proud of what they have formulated down in the Antarctic. And I mean, this is a massive Russian base, modern. I mean, it is, it can hold a lot of people. And in one of the reports earlier this morning, it was stated that the Russians are really making a push to take over Antarctica.
Oh my goodness, that's interesting. Well, Antarctica, as you know, is a huge continent. So there's space for everybody. But obviously, because everybody's interested in Antarctica, there must be some important resources there. Or it could be, I've heard that it could be alien technology hiding under the ice that everybody's hunting around for. But obviously the weather is also changing in Antarctica, which makes it easier to operate there and makes it easier to get to whatever resources they're after. But I'm sure they're not building bases there if there's nothing to gain. There must be a lot to gain by having bases there.
Yes, exactly. And they said that the people that will be stationed there will be there for 18 months at a time. And
Okay.
they did mention the the natural resources, drilling for oil and fuel and things of that nature. But I just think I think totally different. I think totally different. I think that they are there to possibly preserve mankind, to preserve their own.
Oh, I see.
In the case that there is a massive crustal shift, pole shift, the Earth tilting over, maybe not bouncing back to where it's supposed to be, then that would only create maybe a tropical environment for the Antarctic, a more livable area. Because,
well, definitely, yeah. I think it's happening already, Scott.
Oh yeah, it most definitely is. I mean, you can't get anywhere near the Antarctic. You just, if me and you wanted to jump on a plane right now and we wanted to fly there, we can't do that.
Yeah, of course.
We can't do that. I mean, does somebody legitimately own, the deeds, the rights to this continent, to this land? No, but we can't go there.
Yes.
Huh. Yeah. Definitely makes you wonder what's really going on down there, and why all of this sudden interest all of a sudden, and many things going on around the world politically. And I really don't like to get into politics and war because I can't stand war. There's never a winner in war. But I think that I think a lot of the threat of war is a complete psychological program that they've put together. I don't even think that this Kim Jong-un is, I don't even think he's alive. I think that they've already taken over North Korea a long time ago. This man's probably dead. They probably have a double in his place. And if you think about it, you would have to be very, very, very insane to think that a little tiny country like North Korea is going to take on Russia, China, the United States, and Japan is no pushover. So you are surrounded already by your enemy. What do you think that you're actually going to do? Do you actually think that your little tiny country has the power? No, absolutely not. Any type of nuclear detonation in that small country, the people that live in South Korea, well, they're going to have problems. There's going to be fallout in China, Japan, Russia, South Korea. So once again, I think that this is just one big psyop, just like the stunt that they pulled over in the Middle East with, bombing Syria and an abandoned airfield, which had nothing in it, but they dropped 59 bombs on. And then the next week, they dropped the mother of all bombs into, a barren desert in Afghanistan. But yet we haven't seen any video footage or any photographs of what has actually been damaged. What happened? We know that you dropped some bombs, but okay, what happened? So they're going to try to create this whole diversionary war program to, set people off. And now there was just this report that next Friday or the 26th of April, President Donald Trump is closing down federal government buildings. And then
Sure, my
they have
goodness.
this big emergency plan set for New York City coming up.
Sure.
You know, what is going on? You know, what do they call it? Operation Gotham Shield? You know, and every time they do this, something ends up happening.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Really makes you wonder.
They know where these objects are and when it's likely that something will happen because of different of alignments and so on. That's why they know exactly when to chemtrail, how much to chemtrail. They know these objects' orbits very well indeed, and they hiding that from us, and they are trying to destabilize the political arena. So they keep people like the North Korean leader in power. The CIA knows very well, I think, how to change governments around the world. So if they had wanted to, they would have changed that government there a long time ago. So he's there because they want him there.
Yeah, I was just reading a report just now, just coming across the wire,
Yes.
that the Japanese Navy is now joining the U.S. Armada.
Wow.
Out in the sea.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. You know, I just know that they are going to cause something that we just don't need to be involved in. And I think it's all fake. I just think it's all 100% fake. It's a shame that that possibly, you know, innocent people are going to lose their lives because, you know, we have these liars that are just running the world. So that makes me sick.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that in these wars that they fight or they pretend to fight between countries, the only people that lose are the young soldiers.
True.
The next generation and they die in large numbers. This happened in First World War, the Second World War, and they're obviously looking to kill more young people. And this is the only reason why they design these wars. They are acts, they are theater, I think. It's not real, as you say.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the weapons are real and people do get killed.
Yes, so there's no doubt about that, unless they're bombing more abandoned airfields and bombing deserts where, you know, nobody lives. But one of our subscribers in the chat room had an interesting question for you, and you know, I'll just go ahead and put that out there. Do you think that there is any other reason why we would be subjected to this chemtrailing around the world on a daily basis? Is there any good reason for this?
Well, the only reason I could think of is to block off the radiation. But I suppose in a way it's possible that some of these particles cause radiation to be reflected off into space. However, there are a lot of things that this cannot shield us from. For example, cannot shield us from the fast solar wind particles, cannot shield us from cosmic radiation. It cannot shield us from the magnetic induction of having these objects in the solar system and heating up our mantle and causing earthquakes and tsunamis and the weather patterns to change. It cannot change the fact that our North Pole is moving away from where it's supposed to be. It cannot change the fact that our weather patterns are changing. So it could block a little bit of radiation.
Yeah, just a little bit. It's not doing a very good job because I check the radiation reports every single day.
Exactly.
You know, after I check the magnetopause, the magnetosphere, the solar winds, you know, I check all of this several times a day to keep track on everything. But one of our subscribers, Mr. John Smith, just you know, dropped a message in the chat room, and he says that he said, Scott, I have boys that are going to train in Australia in the special forces. So it seems that they are actually building up the militaries. And you know, John, if you're listening to me now,
Yes.
you know, our blessings for your sons. You know, just hope for the best. I just don't think that I just don't think that anybody should be put into this type of situation, because there's no need for war. I mean, the war just doesn't. There's just never a good outcome. I don't remember any war in my lifetime, or any war that's ever had a good income or a good outcome.
That's right.
I just don't see it. And especially now with what we have as far as military weapons, wow. Yeah, they may be able to pinpoint the weapons, but it still causes destruction. And people lose their lives, both good and bad. So I just don't see how the aspect of war ever has a good outcome. John, I hope everything works out. I hope your boys come home alive, spend the rest of their life happy, because that's what all of us should be doing. You know, we really shouldn't have to go through all of this that is happening, understanding that what is happening within our solar system is something that we can't control. But deceiving the entire world population is just something that I will never be able to come to terms with. That is something that I will never agree with. And, you know, everybody can see all of the subscribers to my channel and Chris Potter's channel and the other channels that are out there reporting and trying to seek the truth. You can see very clearly that there are factions out there. Well, you know, we call them trolls, shills, whatever you want to call them. But these are just really bad people that are put in place to discredit everything that you're doing. They're there to waste your time. They're there to waste your knowledge on what you're trying to seek out. And like I've said before, and I'll say it again, why would they go to this extent if there wasn't any threat? If there wasn't any threat, then there would be no need for the disinformation campaigns. There would be no need for these little garbage troll babies. They'd be out of work.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is, they press on very, very hard against me every single day. Now, so far today, since 7 a.m. this morning, I've received 32 text messages from one idiot who thinks he's a wannabe rapper in Buffalo, New York, that goes by the name of the Nibiru Freedom Fighter. This is the guy that wears his dirty, filthy, shit-stained underwear on his head while he makes videos about me. Actually, very comical. But now they are making up a different story. And, you know, I'm just going to end this this interview with all of this, ladies and gentlemen, because you're probably going to see a smear campaign once again about me, and with the likes of Astro Boy, the nerd guy from Astronomy Live, the little four-eyed freak with the big mouth, has actually started running a smear campaign against me. They're passing around some kind of crazy police report that's all been doctored. It's all fake. So if you happen to see any of their videos, flag their videos, report them to YouTube, because all of the information, once again, is all fake and false. And they've been known to do this many, many times. It's not going to matter. But anyways, I also wanted to put something out there. You know, over the past couple of days, I've noticed that these troll organizations, some of them over in the UK, some of them here in the United States, they're not from the same organizations. They're actually working for different factions. And every now and then, They get on each other's nerves, and they actually start to fight and argue amongst themselves. But that just goes to show you how disorganized they really are. One of the most notorious idiots is this guy in New Zealand that goes by the YouTube handle named Dazza the Cameraman. I was listening to an interview with him last night. He was arguing with one of his old proteges, Logan Runnin. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Logan Runnin. You know, Logan, you know, he has a pretty entertaining show. He talks a lot of crap. He does a lot of reports on me, but I don't know where me and him stand. So Logan, the king of truth, if you're out there and you're listening, me and you need to have a talk. You have my email. I want to be on your show. I want you to interview me because, Mr. Logan, it seems to me that each and every time that my name comes out of your mouth, you're only giving a half of a story, like you did last night. Your report about me harassing an old elderly couple. So if you really want to get to the truth, Mr. Logan Runnin, step up to the plate. I'm calling you out. Get me on your show, and let's get the real truth. Let me give you another piece of advice. Stay away from Astronomy Live. Stay away from Dazza the Cameraman, because all they're going to do is throw you under the bus, use you like a doormat, like they've done before. You seem like a good guy, sometimes a little out of control, but I watch everything you do. I don't miss not one of your shows, your live feeds, or your videos. But if you want to continue to report on me, I would advise you to get your facts straight and step up to the plate and have me on your show. And we can talk. We can talk about a lot of things. But if you're going to report on me, don't talk about a half of a story. Get your facts straight. Let's get it all out there. And also, pronounce my last name correctly. All of you troll babies, learn how to pronounce my last name correctly, because you all sound like a bunch of idiots. But anyways, you know, moving back to what we were talking about, I think, well, I'm going to ask your opinion going into the next month, moving into the month of March. I know, what was it? A few reports ago that you were trying to calculate the distance of the brown dwarf star that was off behind the sun. Do you feel that that you did say that it's actually moving in closer?
It definitely, yes, because I calculated where it was in October of last year, and then I calculated it again in April, so just a few weeks ago, and it was just behind Mars, the Mars orbit, not behind the planet itself, but Mars orbit. And so it has accelerated, and it's moved 5 AUs in 151 days. So it means it's moving in faster, and so it's going in towards the sun. Now, what it might do as it moves in towards the sun is it might go around and it might go back out, or it might go into orbit around the sun like the other brown dwarf stars that are there. So we don't know for sure what it's really going to do.
So I guess it's just going to be a waiting game. A waiting game will continue. We'll continue moving forward, you know, with seeking our knowledge. That much is a fact.
That's right.
I think though, when we move into the months of May, you know, May and June, I think we're gonna.
Yes.
I think we're going to be in for a little bit of a rocky ride. What do you think?
I think so. I think what we see happening now is an acceleration of what's been happening for years and getting worse for years. And I think that for me, the line was crossed when I saw earthquakes in Africa.
Yeah,
And
that still blew my mind too. You know,
yeah.
Every time I look at the earthquake map and I open up my browser,
Yes.
I'm hoping not to see, more and more earthquakes there, because those weren't small quakes.
No,
those were in the magnitudes of 6 and the high 5s.
That's
So let's just hope that we don't see any more of that. But I do think,
to tell you the truth, Scott, I think that once they start happening, they will happen again.
yeah, I think you're right. I was just trying to look on the bright side of it.
I think we have to be prepared for the fact that, what has been happening for years now is that we get some upheaval in April, and then it sort of settles down a little bit, and then we get upheaval again in October. And that may shift a little bit. So, we could have a few things happen now that are quite dramatic, and then it may settle down a little bit until late September, October, like it's been happening every year. I cannot guarantee it. I've just observed that's what's been happening for years. But we don't know for sure.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right
so we
there.
might,
I think you're definitely right there. I've seen that pattern, and I was just actually thinking about that today. And then whenever we were discussing it before our live broadcast, I've seen that pattern, and I see it just progressing, in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I said, I don't think things are going to get better. Not for a very long time. It could be that the sun and these other stars will eventually settle down in some sort of pattern where these stars are giving off some of the light in different frequencies and different colors. We hope that, the combination of the sun and these other stars will continue to provide enough light for us to have photosynthesis on Earth. We can hope that things will settle down eventually, but for now, I don't think it's going to settle down, and things will keep on getting more and more dangerous, I think.
Yeah, I think we're just in the beginning phases of what we're actually going to see. And again, like I have said before, I think that we are going to see and experience things that modern man never even dreamed of, never even thought about. And I think we're going to see them. We're going to live through them. And it is going to be one hell of an experience. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Doctor, I wanted to ask you something. I've been going back and forth and listening to, these smear campaigns, and I hate to bring it up again, but I want to put some of these people on the spot, because they seem to know it all, even though they don't do 1/10 of the research that you do, nor do they have 1/10 of the brains and education that you do, but they think that they know it all. They think that they know it all. They go by the title of debunker. We debunk. Well, you don't debunk shit. But anyways, I was speaking with Chris Potter last night, and I want to put one of these individuals on the spot. I want to put one of them on the spot. And that's this guy, Logan Running, that we were just talking about. And Logan, if you've ever seen any of his videos, you might think that you might think that he's a deranged lunatic. But in actuality, He's pretty smart.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just fallen to the side and taken the wrong side.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had a lot of people requesting that they have a chance to speak with you, interview you, and naturally myself and Chris Potter would be there. But I want to call this guy out. I want to call this guy out right onto the platform, Mr. Logan Runnin, the king of truth. Now, he's been screwed over on some other interviews that he was supposed to have exclusives on, and they were just simply exclusives to smear somebody else's life.
Mm-hmm.
But me and Chris were talking last night, and I want to put Logan on the spot and offer Logan, and only Logan Runnin, the king of truth, the chance to interview you with me and Chris.
Okay.
Now, I would say that Logan would be very, very nice to you. He's not going to be any type of a vicious scum like a few of these other debunkers would probably be. But I want to give Logan Runnin, I want to give him the opportunity to have the biggest exclusive on all of YouTube dealing with Planet X. Logan Runnin, you want to take the challenge, my man? It's there. Once again, you have my email address. Now is your opportunity to step up to the plate. You have 5 days. You have 5 days to get in touch with me, and we're going to organize this interview, and you are going to be polite. You're going to be a gentleman, and you can, I guess, make a list of questions that you'd like to ask, and we'll put you on top if that's where you want to be. Maybe you can separate yourself from the filthy, dirty factions that follow you. Because no matter which way you slice the pie, my friend, there is absolutely no way that you can deny what is happening around this world and within our solar system. Mr. Logan Runnin, here's your chance to be the true king of truth. I love this guy, man. He is just, you know, even when he's kicking me under the bus and backing up over top of me, I still enjoy listening to him. But, you know, there's nothing to be afraid of. He's harmless.
Okay.
I'll introduce you to a couple of his videos.
Okay.
I saved a few of them the other day, and they're pretty good, you know. But now, you know, last night he was fighting with his creator, Dazza the cameraman, who's been too busy. Yeah, who's been too busy to bother me, but yet they go ahead and you know, they continue to create their smear campaigns against me, which I don't mind. It doesn't bother me, and nobody really listens to them anyways. But we've had a lot of requests, you know, that, oh, we want to talk to the, you know, the doctor. We want to talk to her. We have a lot of questions. Well, you know what? It's not that, you know, we're like your agents or anything like that, you know, but I think that it'd be a good idea. Me and Chris were talking about it. We thought we'd throw it your way, and, you know, it's something that you don't have to do, but I think it would be quite amusing to see someone like Logan get out there, because they all talk a lot of trash, like they know everything. And at one time, Logan was interested in investigating Nibiru. And as they call us nibtards, he was a nibtard at one point in time, hot and heavy into it, man. But then,
that's interesting.
Very interesting. But then somebody got under his skin. They got into his head, and they changed his whole way of thinking. And you know, actually, Logan does some pretty good reporting when he stays on point. And then he has his wild side, which is, you know, pretty cool. Well, it's not cool when
Okay.
he's defaming me and making up and listening to all of the lies that people put in his head, because he doesn't know me. None of these people know me personally. They just make up stories because they all work for the government of some kind. George Soros, whatever government they're working for, they all have an agenda. The agenda doesn't include us, being like friends. But we're going to see if this man steps up to the challenge, and I want to see it. Logan Running, listen to me. I know you're out there. I know if you're not listening, the troll babies will get you this message. And if you want to hear what I'm saying, click on this video, go to the last 10 minutes of it, and listen to me. You have 5 days to get in touch with me. You know my email address. Let's set this up. And let's see some professional questions coming from you. And let's put Logan Running back on top as the king of truth. But anyways, Doc, I've taken up a lot of your time here. It's your evening. And is there anything that you'd like to end our interview with?
Well, no, I'd just like to thank you. I find it very enjoyable, actually, to talk to you, Scott. And as usual, I am interested in telling people the truth. I'm interested in knowing the truth myself. I cannot say that I know everything. I use my ability to think and deduce things from images and analyze images to come up with logical explanations for what's going on. And I just want to say that if people don't want to believe, that's up to them. Listen, and they don't have to believe.
But you know what?
Yeah.
They do listen. They listen in secrecy.
I see.
They listen to every word you say.
Okay.
And they cannot, as I hate that word, debunk. They cannot debunk you because they don't have, number one, the intelligence or the knowledge. And they don't have the power. Nor do they have the evidence. Nor have they taken the time to actually sit down and do the amount of work that you do. And plus, on top of that, you're a professor, you work at a university, you lecture every single day. You have all of this to prepare for. And on top of that, continue helping me and Chris Potter with all of your reports. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you very much, because deep down inside, no matter which way you slice the pie, whether I live or die, you've changed my life forever. And I think as people continue to sit here and listen to you, I think you're opening up some eyes and you're adding some substance to what we've tried to investigate for years now. And that's a big help. And I think in the end, I hate to use that word also, but everybody's going to have, they're going to have thanks to you and a lot of respect for you, because like I've said before, we don't see any man stepping up to the plate with your background and your intelligence and putting himself out there. So I have a lot of respect for you.
Thank you, Scott.
Most definitely. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let the doctor go so she can enjoy her weekend and her evening. And probably within the next few days, she is working on a couple of other reports, and they are going to be very, very interesting. And it is all information that is very, very vital to all of us. So what I would ask you is all of the videos that you see coming up from the Planet X News channel, if you are a subscriber to my Nibiru channel, make sure that you are subscribed to both of these channels. The description, or in the description box, there are the links for all of my channels, and also the X Factor radio show. And we're going to be doing a lot more with the radio show upcoming in the very, very, very near future. There have been a lot of people over the course of the last week that have sent in contributions, donations to this channel that have been very, very helpful. They have come in from all over the world. I got a special donation that came in today from New Zealand. And I thank you very, very much. I thank every single one of you from the bottom of my heart. And, you know, earlier today when I was going through this information, it really does touch my heart to know that there are people on every inch of this earth that are supporting me, that are supporting the doctor and Chris Potter and what we're doing. And the only thing that I could say is thank all of you. I thank every single one of you for helping me and supporting the doctor and supporting what we're doing, because we're doing all of this not only for ourselves, but for each and every one of you. And as you look out for me, I will look out for you. And you could take that to the bank. Once again, I thank every single one of you that has helped this channel survive through the tribulations at YouTube that are still continuing. And we don't know when there will be an end in sight. So please, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you share all of our videos with your friends and your family members on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever you want to share it. This is Scott from Planet X News. Thank you for watching.